addressed to the higher education sector, and this is, as you will see, the part of the program that has the biggest share of the budget. And the other sectors are the school education sector, the vocational education and training sector, the adult education sector, and the youth sector. As I was saying earlier, countries from all over the world can participate in the program. There are some limitations, but basically it is really possible for universities or schools based worldwide to be involved in the program and to receive funding. This is the total budget of the program. That is, as you can see, 26 billion euro. And as I was saying earlier, the biggest share of the budget goes to the higher education sector. Now, Erasmus is an umbrella program. This is how it's articulated, and we're going just to focus on this action that is partnership for cooperation. The purpose of this action, and in particular the purpose of the cooperation partnership, is to promote the priorities that I mentioned earlier. So the same priorities that I mentioned earlier, focusing on inclusion, environmental issues, digital readiness, and common values, civic engagement, etc. As you can see within the program, there are some priorities. For example, as far as the higher education sector is concerned, one of the priorities may be related to developing and supporting digital and green capabilities of higher education institutions. And these are the other priorities. We have been speaking of entrepreneurship, and this is another priority, supporting innovation and entrepreneurship. Now, this specific action of the program has a budget of up to 400,000 euro for projects that can have a duration of 2 to 3 years. In a nutshell, at least 3 organizations have to be involved in the project from at least 3 different countries. So it means that you need to involve in a project at least 3 countries from and at least 3 organizations or more. The duration is 1 to 3 years. The publication of the call for proposal is between October and November. This year it was published at the beginning of November, last year it was October, and the deadline is in March. This year it was 5th of March. The grant request is to be submitted to the national agency. So if the applicant organization is based in France, the application has to be submitted to the French national agency. What can you achieve with a project like this, with this cooperation partnership project? You can decide as a group of universities to develop joint curricula. You can decide to develop online courses or MOOC. You can create a collection of teaching sources. You can produce a manual, publications, guidelines, teaching models or methods, collection of case studies. The focus of this program is the production of deliverables that are relevant in the field of education. There are other programs that have different purpose within Erasmus. It could be capacity building. We have here some colleagues from South Africa who are currently involved in a capacity building project. And the purpose of capacity building is not, as in this case, to produce deliverables, but rather to enhance capacity building in universities all over the world. But in this case, the purpose is to produce tangible deliverables. And here are very few examples of projects in which we are currently involved that are related to science education. This is from the University of Lyon, so the applicant organization is this Spanish university, and the focus is on robotics. So how to train teachers, STEM and STEM teachers on robotics to help them dealing with the kids with intellectual disabilities. Another example, this is from Cisler Scuola, but the scientific coordinator is the University La Sapienza in Rome, and the purpose of this project is to help teachers to develop skills in mathematics. So it's a strategy to teach mathematics at primary education level, but the partners in the project are mainly higher education institutions. This is a school, this is a secondary school, and the purpose of this project is to promote an interdisciplinary approach to teaching environmental issues at schools. And here, for each of these projects, as you can see, there is a list of the deliverables produced, and you may have noticed that there are 3, because the standard number of deliverables that are produced in this kind of projects is 3. In this case, an online course, lesson plans, and the syllabus for teaching environmental issues at school according to this approach. Another example is IMAP. In this case, the applicant and the scientific coordinator is the Istituto Politecnico de Braganza in Portugal. And the idea here is to use artificial intelligence to detect the level of knowledge of mathematics of first-year students in polytechnics in this case in Portugal. And another project, here the applicant is the University of Basque Country in Spain. And the purpose of the project is to provide engineering lecturers with the skills to implement innovative teaching methodologies for STEM or STEAM. What happens in all of these projects that I mentioned, but there are many others, as I was saying, on our website you can look at the projects in which we are currently involved as speakers. What happens is that a lecturer, researchers, they have an idea and they come to us, we discuss the idea, and we try and transform this idea into a project that may have good chances of being funded. Of course, there is no guarantee that it will be actually funded, but based on the expertise we have, 26 years in working in the field of European funding programs, we know very well how assessors who will evaluate the proposal think and what is expected from a project. So we can redefine the idea, the research idea, or the idea that should have an impact on the field of education, so that the project has chances of being funded. So how can you formulate an idea? The idea starts, first of all, with the awareness of the objectives and priorities of the proposal. So you have to know of what the European Commission is willing to fund. And this is clearly written in the guidelines for applicants, where the information about what are the priorities is made available. And then once you are aware of the objectives and priorities of the proposal you identify, then you have to make sure you do not reinvent the wheel. Meaning that if you have an idea and you may think it's a wonderful idea, it's very innovative, you have to make sure that someone else has not already implemented the same idea, which usually is the case. So you should investigate about what has been done by those who developed an idea similar to yours, and make sure that your idea builds up on the lesson learned and exploit the existing results. The next step is a clear identification of the target. So usually when researchers or lecturers come to us with an idea, my first question is, who is it addressed to? And the answer is usually, it can be addressed to lecturers, researchers, students, school teachers, etc., etc. This is not good, because you have to decide for a very specific target, because then everything around the further development of the idea has to be your target is and what are the specific needs you are addressing. So the next activity you should implement while further developing the idea is to carry out a needs analysis involving the specific target that you have decided you will be addressing. And then, only then, you can start defining the objectives that are to be based on, as I was saying, the awareness of the priorities of the program, the good knowledge of your target groups and their needs, and the awareness of what has been developed already in the field. And then the objective that you develop must be realistic and must be clearly outlined. I am an evaluator of project proposals. So as an assessor, when I read a project proposal, sometimes we struggle because the projects are not clear. So it's not clear what the applicant, what the project writers are willing to do. So it's very important to make sure that the idea is clearly presented. And then, on the basis of the objectives you have, you can start identifying the activities. And of course, for each objective, let's say you have a general objective that is helping teachers to, very typical now, to exploit artificial intelligence in teaching. So this is a general aim, but then you have to identify specific objectives, such as providing teachers all the skills to use AI in teaching, providing teachers of examples of good use, good implementation of AI in education, etc. So you have a general aim, and then you have to identify specific objectives, and for each of the specific objectives. So if the first specific objective is to train teachers, then the first activity will be the development, for example, of a training program or training package. So for each specific objective, you will have to identify related activities that are there so that the objective can be achieved. And then, on the basis of the activities you are going to implement, you will describe the results that the project will produce in terms of deliverables, tangible deliverables, an online training package, this is a tangible deliverable, and outcomes, intangible results, such as the acquisition of skills. So if the tangible deliverable is a training package, the acquisition of skills is your intangible result. And then when you define the results, you will have to define indicators. So how are you going to measure your results? For example, the training package will be composed of 10 modules. Each module will have a duration of 10 hours. It will be organized. And you also have to think of the sustainability of the results in the long terms. Because what the European Commission funding these projects does not want is that you produce results that will end up in the drawer. That has to be avoided, and we have to explain the strategy you intend to implement to avoid that your results at the end of the funding period will not be used anymore. And then the next step is the identification of partners, because these projects are based on a transnational partnership. As I was saying earlier, usually it's at least 3 different countries that must be involved. And so it's important to identify partners that can provide skills and expertise and experience that are needed to implement the activities that you are willing to implement. And then the budget. Then the budget is the last step in the process. That means that once you have identified the objectives, activities, results, and partners, then you have to decide how to allocate the